has transpired. As many of you know, ever since I've been in Congress, I would lead a delegation to Israel every term. When I took over, I made sure it was bipartisan and joined with then leader Steny Hoyer. To get a clear understanding. As Speaker, my very first trip internationally was to Israel. I spoke at the Knesset in honor of the 75th anniversary of the creation of their country. At this moment in time, I think about what I said inside their chambers. I said, our values are your values. Our heritage is your heritage. Our dreams are your dreams. America is grateful for our friendship with Israel. We are a better nation because of it. And we must never shy away from defending it. Now is the time for action. America needs a 5-point plan to meet this moment, to help our ally Israel, and to strengthen our own future. The very first thing we need to do is rescue the American hostages. President Biden's number one priority right now must be finding out how many Americans have been taken hostage and get them home. From last night to this morning, the number of American deaths have doubled from 4 to 9. This administration must also make clear that harming any American will result in the wrath of the United States. We cannot repeat what happened in Afghanistan. It must be clear that we do not negotiate with terrorists and no American will be left behind. Biden's policy on appeasement, including money for hostage deals, must come to an end. His policy has only emboldened terrorists. And handing over $6 billion to Iran only helps the cause. In explaining that to members of Congress, they said they had provisions to refreeze the money if Iran has done something wrong. They should freeze the money back today. Secondly, the leader of Hamas is reported to be sitting in a 5-star hotel, cheering, watching women, children, grandparents being slaughtered and murdered in the streets. President Biden should demand his extradition now. Second, we must be there for our friend Israel. And what that means, it means action now. You see, I've been down to Gaza many times. I've sat next to the Iron Dome in a bipartisan group of members from both sides of the aisle. When we talked to those soldiers and asked them what they feared, is to be overwhelmed. See, a battery of an Iron Dome would go up and knock out a missile. It would first calculate where that missile was going and go next to it and knock it out. But it only has about 20 missiles at a time. We're watching 5,000 go. We always knew their plan was to build enough missiles to overwhelm. And that first set of missiles to be dumb missiles until you took out all the ability in the Iron Dome to knock them down. Then you send the precision-guided, long-range missiles to go to larger populations. We need to resupply Israel where they have no doubt that they will ever be overwhelmed. Third, we must confront Iran. Hamas is Iran's proxy. They brag that they were helped by Iran to attack Israel. We must counter this new axis of power. It's an evil axis of Iran, Russia, and China. By building stronger coalitions across the Middle East, we must also expand the Abraham Accords to promote peace and freedom. 3 years ago, there was not war in Europe or in Israel, but today there is. The United States must reinstate the maximum pressure campaign against Iran. Refreezing the $6 billion is only the start. But under the last administration, Iran was only producing 400,000 barrels of oil a day. Now it's 3 million. They're making billions of dollars. If you look at the foreign currency reserves, 3 years ago, Iran had 4 billion. Today it's 70 billion. They are wealthier, richer, and stronger under this Biden administration, and they're using that wealth to fund terrorism, attacking our allies and killing Americans. And it must stop today. Sanctions should go on Iran's production of oil, and we should replace it with American energy. Unshackle the blessings that God has given America. Let us be energy independent to supply our allies. It will also be better for the environment. If we simply replaced Russian natural gas in Europe for 1 year, we would lower CO2 emissions by 200 million tons in 1 year. We must enforce harsher sanctions, cut off Iran's ability to export oil, and to refuse to enter any future nuclear deals. In ramping up American production to ensure the safety and security of us here at home and our allies abroad. In the long term, we need to rebalance the power dynamics in the region, which means making America the energy powerhouse of the world. Fourth, we must focus on our own security. This just wasn't a failure in Israel and their intelligence community. It was ours as well. Why did we not know this was taken? Why do we have a Secretary of State who says he has no knowledge if Iran wasn't involved? He has less knowledge than the Wall Street Journal of meetings in Beirut and others, of a sophisticated plans going on for months, and an own Twitter notice of more than 40 days ago of Hamas telling us, preparing for the war. In looking at our own intelligent failures, we have to look to our border. In 2019, there was 0 arrests of people on the FBI terrorist watch list trying to come across our border. Just in this year alone, there's 151 from 160 different countries. In my own state, we caught 2 coming from Yemen on the terrorist watch list, from China and others. Why are they coming to America? What do they have planned? And who are they communicating with? President Biden has said previously that he believes the #1 threat to America is facing is climate change. That is not true. The #1 threat killing Americans is terrorism. The #1 threat is an open border. The #1 threat is weakening our economic power by lowering our ability to produce our own energy. Our #1 threat is appeasement and funding Iran. Our #1 threat is letting the buildup of the axis of the evil power of Iran, Russia, and China. Rather focus on his Green New Deal, he should focus on protecting the American people. We need an immediate assessment of our own areas of weakness, and a glaring weakness in our own southern border. We know that individuals on the terrorist watch list have crossed Biden's open border. Who are these people? Who are they in contact with? And what are their plans here in America? Fifth, as we look inward, we must confront anti-Semitism in the United States. To every single president of a college and university, do not sit back. Do not let anti-Semitism grow. Confront it and deny it. Condemn it. And the anti-Semitism here in this house, saying no comment is not leadership. Allowing elected members of this body to speak anti-Semitism and not condemn it is wrong. To avoid it is wrong. As Speaker, I watched a member on the other side of the aisle try to reserve a building in here to celebrate anti-Semitism. I removed it. I removed a member from Foreign Affairs based upon anti-Semitism. I watched others yesterday continue those remarks. I watched the leadership on the other side say no comment. Have we not learned anything from history? Have we not understand the moment in life we are living? Do we not realize that weakening America strengthens our enemies? Allowing Iran to produce more oil, appeasement, paying ransoms for American hostages has only made us weaker on the world stage. These 5 actions must be taken now. And to the President, turn off the barbecue and speak to the American people. Be the leader the world is looking for. Otherwise, the world will stay unsafe. With that, I'll take some questions.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Good afternoon. You know, there are moments in this life, and I mean this literally, when the pure, unadulterated evil is unleashed on this world. The people of Israel lived through one such moment this weekend. The bloody hands of the terrorist organization Hamas, a group whose stated purpose for being is to kill Jews. This was an act of sheer evil. More than 1,000 civilians slaughtered, not just killed, slaughtered in Israel. Among them, at least 14 American citizens killed. Parents butchered using their bodies to try to protect their children. Stomach-turning reports of babies being killed. Entire families slain. Young people massacred while attending a musical festival to celebrate peace. Women raped, assaulted, paraded as trophies. Families hid their fear for hours and hours, desperately trying to keep their children quiet to avoid drawing attention. And thousands of wounded, alive but carrying with them the bullet holes and the shrapnel wounds and the memory of what they endured. You all know these traumas never go away. There's still so many families desperately waiting to hear the fate of their loved ones, not knowing if they're alive or dead or hostages. Infants in their mother's arms, grandparents in wheelchairs, Holocaust survivors abducted and held hostage. Hostages whom Hamas has now threatened to execute in violation of every code of human morality. It's abhorrent. The brutality of Hamas, these bloodthirstiness brings to mind the worst rampages of ISIS. This is terrorism. But sadly, for the Jewish people, it's not new. This attack has brought to the surface painful memories and the scars left by a millennia of anti-Semitism and genocide of the Jewish people. So in this moment, we must be crystal clear. We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. And we will make sure Israel has what it needs to take care of its citizens, defend itself, and respond to this attack. There's no justification for terrorism. There's no excuse. Hamas does not stand for the Palestinian people's right to dignity and self-determination. Its stated purpose is the annihilation of the state of Israel and the murder of Jewish people. They use Palestinian civilians as human shields. Hamas offers nothing but terror and bloodshed with no regard to who pays the price. The loss of innocent life is heartbreaking. Like every nation in the world, Israel has the right to respond, indeed has a duty to respond to these vicious attacks. I just got off the phone with a third call with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I told him, the United States experience what Israel is experiencing, our response would be swift, decisive, and overwhelming. We also discussed how democracies like Israel and the United States are stronger and more secure when we act according to the rule of law. Terrorists purposely target civilians, kill them. We uphold the laws of war, the law of war. It matters. There's a difference. Today, Americans across the country are praying for all those families that have been ripped apart. A lot of us know how it feels. It leaves a black hole in your chest when you lose family. Feeling like you're being sucked in. The anger, the pain, the sense of hopelessness. This is what they mean by a human tragedy, an atrocity on an appalling scale. But we're going to continue to stand united, supporting the people of Israel who are suffering unspeakable losses and opposing the hatred and violence of terrorism. My team has been in near constant communication with our Israeli partners and partners all across the region and the world from the moment this crisis began. We're surging additional military assistance, including ammunition and interceptors, to replenish Iron Dome. We're going to make sure that Israel does not run out of these critical assets to defend its cities and its citizens. My administration has consulted closely with Congress throughout this crisis. And when Congress returns, we're going to ask them to take urgent action to fund the national security requirements of our critical partners. This is not about party or politics. This is about the security of our world, the security of the United States of America. We now know that American citizens are among those being held by Hamas. I've directed my team to share intelligence and deploy additional experts from across the United States government to consult with and advise Israeli counterparts on hostage recovery efforts. Because as president, I have no higher priority than the safety of Americans being held hostage around the world. The United States has also enhanced our military force posture in the region to strengthen our deterrence. The Department of Defense has moved the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group to the Eastern Mediterranean and bolstered our fighter aircraft presence. And we stand ready to move in additional assets as needed. Let me say again, to any country, any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation, I have one word: don't. Don't. Our hearts may be broken, but our resolve is clear. Yesterday, I also spoke with the leaders of France, Germany, Italy, and UK to discuss the latest developments with our European allies and coordinate our united response. This comes on top of days of steady engagement with partners across the region. We're also taking steps at home. In cities across the United States of America, police departments have stepped up security around centers of Jewish life. The Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Bureau of Investigation are working closely with state and local law enforcement and Jewish community partners to identify and disrupt any domestic threat that could emerge in connection with these horrific attacks. This is a moment for the United States to come together, to grieve with those who are mourning. Let's be real clear. There is no place for hate in America. Not against Jews, not against Muslims, not against anybody. What we reject is terrorism. We condemn the indiscriminate evil, just as we've always done. That's what America stands for. You know, just over 50 years ago, I was thinking about it this morning, talking to the Secretary of State, the Vice President in my office. Over 50 years ago, as a young senator, I visited Israel for the first time as a newly elected senator. And I had a long, long trip, a meeting with Golda Meir in her office just before the Yom Kippur War. And I guess she could see the consternation on my face as she described what was being faced. They were facing. We walked outside in that sort of hallway outside her office to have some photos. She looked at me all of a sudden and said, "Would you like to have a photograph?" And so I got up and followed her out. We were standing there silent, looking at the press. She could tell, I guess, I was concerned. She leaned over and whispered to me, she said, "Don't worry, Senator Biden. We have a secret rep in here in Israel." My word is what she said. We have no place else to go. We have no place else to go. For 75 years, Israel has stood as the ultimate guarantor of the security of Jewish people around the world, so that the atrocities of the past could never happen again. And let there be no doubt, the United States has Israel's back. We will make sure the Jewish and democratic state of Israel can defend itself today, tomorrow, as we always have. It's as simple as that. These atrocities have been sickening. We're with Israel. Let's make no mistake. Thank you.
Mr. President, what was your reaction?